Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to be subscribing to that said YouTube channel. So here we are, episode I can't remember, 18 I think, with myself, Clazzy Clare, and himself, Chudders. So off season doesn't exist, no such thing. Football is forever. We go on and on and on and work our little tails off. How are things with you, Chudders?
Not too bad, thanks, Claire. It's good to see you. It was interesting to watch some interesting games at the weekend. Building up the Super Bowl now. Who are you backing for the Super Bowl?
49ers.
Is that who you want to win, or you think will win?
Yes. No. Go Purdy.
I'm all aboard that as well. Let's try and halt Mahomes and the Chiefs' progress and Andy Reid's progress as much as possible before there are serious questions about versus the Patriots' legacy here. But that's me being very bitter. It doesn't affect anything that's already happened, which was phenomenal in its own right.
Yeah, and before I let you reminisce, because we don't have time, Mr. Corporate Meetings, today to let you go down the road of the dynasty and 20 years of wonderfulness, we do need to discuss what is going on currently when it comes to coaches and Patriots coaches and coaching carousel, particularly OC carousel, because we know obviously that they named Jared Mayer head coach. That's kind of old news almost now. There's a darn good chance that Covington is going to be named as the DC. It's kind of half been announced because I think Patriots.com did announce it, or it was on Twitter from Patriots Twitter account, New England Patriots Twitter account. So it's kind of pretty much that's the thing now. So head coach DC done with. Okay, we'll move on. Look forward. They interviewed, from what I understand, as we record this on Wednesday, 31st of January, 3 guys, or there's 3 guys been put down for the special teams coordinator interview. The one guy that they offered it to, Marquise Williams, he remained at Atlanta, so he declined it. But you can't blame him, really. Doesn't want to leave. I would imagine his wife probably didn't want to pack up. But anyway, he declined it for whatever reason. And I know a lot of Patriots fans actually sort of were like, oh, it's a poor showing if we can't get it. I don't look at it like that at all from the look on your face. You do. I don't. It's like, just because he turned down the job and stayed where he is may have a 0 reflection on the Patriots and 100% reflection on his life in Atlanta, or 99.9% then. But they also have been named as Jeremy Springer from the Los Angeles Rams and Thomas, oh crap, I can't say his name, McGaughey from the Giants. I knew I should have read some of my notes before we started recording. So that's special teams for you. There hasn't been much other than Williams rejecting the job, if you like, turning down the job. There hasn't been much talk when it comes to special teams. I don't think that I've seen on social media. The big thing is, and I think the big thing for Patriots Nation anyway, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn by saying this, is the OC. Everybody's interested in the OC. And they have
I'm going to interrupt
interview at 11.
I'm going to interrupt before we get to OC, because otherwise I'll completely lose track if we list everyone off. To look at special teams first then. Yeah. You're right. I'm kind of in the track of, okay, so he came in, he interviewed, and he decided, actually, I'd rather stay where I am. Now, is that because the Patriots offer wasn't that amazing? Was it because in that time frame of interviewing and whatever the Patriots offered and him declining, Arthur Blank decided not to go the Belichick route, or decided on the route he wanted to go with a head coach? That head coach potentially spoke to him and convinced him to stay. There's a lot of reasons it could have happened. Overall, though, I am getting the impression the Patriots probably aren't going to get their first choices. Now, to be fair, they have done it head coach. Maybe they will at defensive coordinator if this really is the first choice that Gerard always wanted. But you get the impression for the outside hires that potentially the Patriots are not going to be getting their first choices. They'll be getting best available. And I think that reflects on where the Patriots are now, because we're probably going to have a similar conversation when it gets to free agency.
You're taking all of that from one coach deciding to stay where he was. You're saying that you don't think the Patriots will have their first choice of outside coaches simply because one guy came in and thought, not sure this is for me. That could have nothing to do with the Patriots. It could have nothing to do with the building. He could have made the journey and been like, you know what, this is way too much traveling because I'd be apart from my family for a while. Don't like it.
I suspect his family would move with him, but yeah.
Well, they don't always, do they? So there's so much that we don't know to make such a grand assumption. I don't know.
Possibly so. We'll see how it plays out as they make appointments and then in free agency as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, as Pats fans, we probably all put together what our dream scenarios are this offseason, all of us knowing it was going to be such a big one: coaching, draft, and free agency. A lot of options open. What we all wanted, but what's playing out, probably no one is going to. The whole setup that's going to be the next year is probably not going to be what we all thought was the direction this was going to go in exactly. But we'll see how that goes. And special teams is a key one. They've been underperforming the past couple of years. They need to get that right. I would love it if Slater does retire, that he's in that room in some capacity, whether that's an assistant or whatever. I'd probably going straight in as coordinator might be a step too big too soon. But I'd love it if Slater was in there. I'd have quite a lot of confidence then in that room if he was. Certainly more confidence than if it had stayed the same way with Joe Judge sort of leading that room and Cam McCord in there.
A crazy thing. This is just a crazy conspiracy theory that doesn't even exist because I'm just making it up right now. But you don't know that Williams came in and they said, Slater's probably going to retire, so we might put him through as your right-hand man or something. And he was like, no, that's the dude that dated my wife in college. I'm having none of that. You never know.
Are you?
You just never know what's going on behind the scenes.
This is the logic that I need to battle against, and quite possibly a reason why I won so many sandwiches last year.
Oh. You're so mean to me.
I think special teams is key. You've listed off the interviews they've had. Hopefully that's an appointment that they'll look to make soon. The overall picture, the lack of appointments being made, like even the Covington one, you'd think it's kind of out there, but it isn't. But it's like, why are we not just getting on and naming that? Particularly an internal hire, you've interviewed enough people to pass the Rooney rule and everything else. Like, why are we not getting on and doing this? Why are we not showing our
Maybe they want to
a bit more?
Announce them all together. Maybe they want to announce them all together, really. It's not like they're not keeping it a secret because obviously it's out there. Maybe it's we want the official to be, and this is our team, and stand strong, and this is all of us together sort of thing. Maybe that's kind of what they want to show it in that light. I don't know.
Possibly.
We don't know. That's the thing.
Possibly.
We don't know any of this ever.
Yeah, possibly it's the way they'll go. And as we've touched on, it does look like the defensive coordinator position has been filled. I still think on the defensive side, there's at least one more appointment to make. They need to make a linebackers coach, I think. There's been talk it could be Hightower. I wouldn't be against that. I'm not sure how he would fare as a coach. He was an amazing player. Another number 54 for me. I'd happily see that. But again, I hope that's an appointment they can make soon. And the big question as well on defense still is what's Steve Belichick going to do? It appears more and more that his father's possibly not going to have a role or coaching role, certainly, going into next season. So if Steve wishes to continue his coaching career, personally, I would think his best option at the moment is with the Patriots. However, it's surely got to be in some sort of elevated role above defensive coordinator. I would have thought if he'd been given the official title of DC, that would have been perfect for him because he can then be a named coordinator and potentially down the line even have looks at head coach as a step up. If he's successful in that role away from his dad, essentially, he's able to prove himself as his own individual. with Covington looking like he's going to be the official DC, then what role does that leave for Steve? Probably assistant head coach, something along those lines. But it's an interesting one because he was play caller for the defense last year, by all accounts, or the past few years, by all accounts. But if you've got a DC, then surely the DC is going to be that now. So Steve's going to be operating below him, and that's essentially a demotion. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, I think, on that side of the ball still.
Well, not necessarily. When you say their demotion, last season, Mayo kind of had the role of DC without the title. And as you said, Steve was the play caller. So they kind of did a combined thing just without those titles that they give. My sort of thought of it, I think this is because this is what I think would work. This is personally my opinion, what I think would work if Covington moves into the role that Mayo did under the DC heading, and Steve continues to be like the defensive play caller, and they coexist the way that Mayo and Belichick did, and Steve Belichick, sorry, did. Oh, we can say Belichick now because there might only be one of them there.
There's two, Brian.
Yeah, I know there's Brian as well, but he hasn't really been talked about, so I don't know as of yet what he's doing. Yeah, he was. Because if you look on Patriots.com, if you literally go on the website, there isn't anything other than Gerard Mayo named for 2024 coaching. Because I went back to look to see what his specific, I wanted to know what Steve's specific title was. Unfortunately, I can't see now because it's not there. So, yeah. Yeah, that's my opinion is if they kind of kept it as it is in a way, but Covington does what Mayo did and Steve does what Steve did, and you just give him a title. Just because Covington is having the DC title doesn't necessarily mean he has to do the play calling. Obviously, that's an internal thing. And the other thing to take into consideration is you say about Steve Belichick wanting to be DC or wanting to be a head coach. He might have no aspiration for that. He might really enjoy doing what he's doing under the responsibility that he's got and wanting no more. He may really enjoy his life as is, and to move over to like a head coaching position could change everything. Yeah, I know that most people have got the ambition, but not every single individual has got the ambition to go even further. Sometimes you find a spot and you think, you know what, this is damn good and I want to stay here at least for a while longer.
Okay,
my opinion.
He was.
You're now going to tell me I'm wrong, even though it's an opinion. Go on.
He was linebackers coach, which is again why that I think
Mayo was named as linebacker coach.
They both were. I think it was interior and outside linebackers.
Oh, okay.
Mayo was interior and Steve was outside. That's why I went the other way around. I'm fairly certain that's the way it was, and that's why I think there's a linebackers coach role that needs to be filled one way or the other, whether they stay or not. With him staying, Covington, and the scenario you painted, I think, is far wrong. With Covington is taking over that sort of Mayo role, but that's therefore leapfrogging Steve. If I was Steve, I don't think I'd be that happy about that. I think I'd be thinking, hang on, Mayo, you've stepped up. I need a step up as well, whether that's taking over your previously held role or some sort of new assistant head coach, however they want to phrase it. So with Covington coming in, I can't see Covington coming in as named DC with everything that Gerard said in his opening press conference about how important titles were and meaningful looking outside. If you name him as a DC, for me, he's got to be calling plays. Now, there can be other people helping to construct a game plan for the week and having input. But if you're naming a DC, I expect that person to be head of the defense. Otherwise, his title is meaningless. And you're almost back to the Bill element of, well, if someone else is putting the game plan together of Steve and Gerard, and then Steve's calling in the plays, then what is Covington actually doing? How is he DC? So that's why I feel like it. Now, the other scenario you painted of Steve being happy where he is, like at that level, that would worry me because one, it already looks like, and we may be wrong, that he's waiting to see what his dad does before he makes a full decision. Now, I understand that, but that's also he's looking for. If you're right, then he's looking for a safety blanket to go and be a linebackers coach at Falcons or wherever he thought his dad was going to get a job.
No, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean looking for the same job elsewhere. I meant liking where he is, enjoying where he is, not necessarily no aspiration to like move up elsewhere. What I'm saying is, what is wrong with not wanting to go upwards when you're happy where you are?
But if that was the case, surely that would have been done by now. If he was happy to say, I'm staying here, I don't want to go anywhere. Good luck for you, Gerard. DeMarcus, brilliant. You go above me. That's not a problem. I'm happy to stay here. That would have been done and clarified already.
Yeah, but you said yourself, they haven't announced Covington officially as DC, as we've just just talked about. So maybe they haven't announced what Steve's going to be.
But they have talked about the Belichicks. They were talked about, and it was said they've got a roller if they want it. Gerard said that in an interview. So he knew it was in flux. He was giving them the space, the ability to kind of make. He wasn't putting pressure on them to make a decision, but he acknowledged that they were making the decision. The offer was there for them to return, but it was their decision to make. So he knows they're waiting on them. It's not that they're, oh no, he's staying. We all know he's staying, and we just not said it. If he is of the mind of, oh, I'm happy to stay low level, I haven't got ambitions, I'd worry about that, because it clearly is coupled with going somewhere else. Now, I would have thought if he was going somewhere else with his dad, it would be his dad as head coach, and he was going to look to become defensive coordinator somewhere, wherever he went. Now, maybe he's looked at this now and said, well, okay, well, I'm not going to be DC here. They've named Covington. If he's okay, well, I'll just come back and I've got no aspirations of going anywhere. That would worry me what his motivations were. Now, from all accounts, he looks a good coach. He looks a good play caller. I want him to stay around, to be honest. But I have worries if he's not got the ambitions to be going anywhere, particularly now when he's in an environment without his father. If he's scared of not having this safety blanket around, that's more of a worry for me then, to be honest.
I never said that. That's putting words into it. I never said he was scared. I was just saying.
No, I said that. I know you didn't say that. That's my take on it.
Anyway, I need to call a defense timeout because we're going to have no time for the offensive coordinator discussion, which is mainly what the hot topic is at the moment. Yep. So instead of speculating what you don't think Steve Belichick does and I do, maybe we should move it along to the 11 interviewed candidates for OC. Granted, a couple of those candidates have now secured their positions either elsewhere or remained with their own team, actually. So, yeah, Jared Johnson announced, I think it was last night for US, this morning for us, that he's remaining with the Texans. He's staying in Houston. And Zach Robinson has gone to the Falcons. Who's the other guy? Now I'm missing a name now. Zach Robinson, the pass game and quarterbacks coach for the Rams, he went to the Falcons. I'm missing a name. Ben Johnson, staying with the Lions. They didn't interview him. I think they put in a request.
That would have been more. He's interviewed at head coach level, not coordinator. But yeah,
he's staying at the Lions as well. So there's Brian Fleury of the 49ers, Dan Pitcher of the Bengals, Thomas Brown of the Panthers.
Pitcher's off the market because he's been promoted by the Bengals.
Oh, I missed that one. My bad. Do you see me telling you as well? Thomas Brown of the Panthers. Shane Waldron of the Hawks. He got hired by the Bears. So he's off that. Tanner Engstrand. I'm crap with names.
Engstrand.
Luke Getsy. Clint Kubiak of the 49ers. Scott Turner of the Raiders. And obviously Nick Cayley, kind of the front runner at the moment. So yeah, there's a few names that we've had to mark off the list, but they have really done their due diligence when it comes to interviewing OCs. Apologies, I meant to look at my list there. But yeah, a lot of information out there. Got to admit, not many of those names mean a lot to me. I will gladly hold my hands up and say I don't know a lot about their work and stuff like that. So some of these, plenty of these names were new to me anyway, so it's difficult to assess who I would and wouldn't want. Looking at the research that obviously other people have done and looking into what other people's opinions are, there's a few kind of standout ones. I think I can guess who the standout one is for you now. That'd be interesting.
There's one other name you haven't mentioned. Josh McDaniels.
Oh, he wasn't on the 11 interviewed though. In my defense,
I agree.
In my defense, I've done my admin job well.
That's fair. But it's another candidate who, like the conversation we've just had about Steve, the thought was he'd probably follow Bill somewhere. Moment, it doesn't look like Bill's going anywhere. He's probably looking for a role somewhere. So I think it would be fair to throw him in the mix. I agree. It doesn't look like he's been interviewed yet, but it's one worth considering whether you'd be interested or not.
I'm now frustrated because you went on about Steve Belichick. I now don't have time to talk about the Mac article with you, and that's really annoying because I know we'd have a massive argument about that because we always argue when it comes to Mac Jones. We may put out a special Mac Jones argument episode. That's just all it is. But we'll see. So yeah, Nick Haley being the front runner, but he's one of the lesser experienced. He has experience, but he's of the list. There's varying levels of experience, and Haley is one of the sort of the lesser so. But it seems maybe just media spearheaded at the moment that he's the front runner. But I'm putting my sandwich bet on an individual that you like. I'm going to write it down so that we can do this legitimately. So I'm going to write his name down. And you say the one that you've got your eye on. Because I think I can guess, but we shall see. Then. No, you have to say it and then I'll put it up. Yeah, I've written it down. I promise I've written it down.
If I was picking one, I would probably take McDaniels now because of the longevity. Now I know he's not interviewed. So if you're going to tell me that because he's not interviewed, he doesn't count, then yeah, that's interesting. But and I say that with a lot of caution and fear of going backwards rather than forwards.
Who on the list?
But he's a proven quality offensive coordinator, and you would be able to have him as pretty much as long as you want him, so long as it's successful, because he ain't getting a head coaching position elsewhere.
You don't want McDaniels back, trust me.
Any of the new guys that
come back, you'll have Mac. You'll end up with Mac. Sorry.
Any of the new guys that you bring in, if they're successful, and I think it would be fair to say it's not going to be 1 year, no matter how good the Patriots are, it's not going to be 1 year, because I think even if this offseason goes perfectly well, I think probably at best we're going to be a middling team. And I think to set expectations in some form of reality. We're you
just want me to confess to my new sandwich bet, don't you? You just want me to confess that random sandwich bet.
we can get to that. We've got plenty of our season yet.
So who out of the 11 that they interviewed, though?
Patience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The point being, I think we, as Pats fans and as senior management, probably have patience of a 3-year turnaround plan for making a system work. A quarterback, Gerard as head coach, and whoever they bring in the coordinator positions, they're probably going to have 3 years to make a success of it. The fear would be at the end of that 3 years, are you going to lose them all? And that's what you would have with these new people. If Haley came in, and it does look like Haley's the front runner, you're going to lose him if he's good, because he'll go for a head coaching position potentially somewhere else. But you've got to appoint someone, and you've got to go with it. It does look like Haley's a strong favourite in the clubhouse. It fits this mould the Patriots appear to be wanting to do with getting known people in the room rather than fresh faces, fresh ideas. But he does also have a sprinkling of experience, having done 1 year away with the Rams. So he does have some ulterior ideas. The McVay offense. He has an overview of that. As people say, obviously, as a tight ends coach, you're heavily studying the O-line and the protection, and you're studying the offense, the receivers, the routes. You have a good overview of what's going on in all areas, so it could work. I have a lot of caution as to how well that's going to really play out with Haley. There's a reason he didn't become offensive coordinator when Patricia got the role 2 years ago. But that appears to be the direction they're going. What I like is they have interviewed a lot of people, and I'm guessing they've asked those people probably 3 main questions of what would you do if we keep the same quarterback room? What would you do if we draft Drake May? What would you do if we draft Jaden Daniels? Because they'll want to know what the ideas of that person are. Now, the likelihood is they're going to draft one of the QBs, and we can debate who we want and who we think they'll get, and we won't know until April. But you'd like to think that whoever answers the best to those questions is the direction they're going to want to go in. Plus, they will also maybe have opinions of 10 other coaches and answers to that question that they could even maybe apply. It at least gives them a lot of thinking to go with. So what name did you write down, and who do you want?
Well, you didn't say who I wrote down, because I thought you were going to say Kubiak, the 49ers pass game specialist. I genuinely thought he was who you were going to say. In my defense, McDaniels wasn't on my list, so I didn't have that to work with. As I said, I'm not extremely familiar with these individuals' work, as it were. Researching, looking in, reading into what they have done, the experience that they have. There are a few key guys that have got plenty of experience that look very interesting. The one thing that you said that really intrigued me was you'll only have them maybe for 3 years. You can't really go into it looking like that, because that's going to happen to everybody. From what you're saying, everybody has the aspiration to move on. So you're always going to have that. You're never going to hold much of a staff if you're always concerned with that in 3 years they'll go. So
unless you have Josh McDaniels.
Unless you have Josh McDaniels. I don't know if I want him. Because to me,
I completely understand the people.
Now let me explain. Let me explain.
I'm not going to die on that hill.
No, and that's fair. But the reason is I don't have anything against him. I know he's a very good OC, and so if he did come back, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, or anything like that. The thing for me is it feels a little bit like, how much are we going to run back? How much are we not going to look at moving forward with new guys that develop within who they're becoming now, not who they were? Because obviously Mayo looks like he's going to be a different coach to Belichick. So some similarities, of course, but he's going to be different. And that, that's what he's stating. So to bring it back with McDaniels, how much are we pulling back and not moving forward? And the other thing is, the one sort of, now I was for this before, so this is going to surprise you, I reckon. Bringing back McDaniels, I think, shows some indication of wanting to make Mac work. And if they do that, you don't think that's possible at all? No, you don't think that if they bring Josh McDaniels back?
No. And to have a very brief discussion, all these articles that are in the press on both sides at the moment about Mac is because he's getting shipped.
Yeah, but
100%.
Some things have indicated that he worked well with McDaniels. So so obviously and I'm wrong, but what I was trying to make a point of was, if it is a McDaniels coming back and they decide to work with Mac regardless of if he's gone or not, that's running it back that I don't know if I want, because then that puts,
I fully agree,
taking a top quarterback in the draft in jeopardy, because they believe that they can find Mac. And I don't know if I want that now.
I don't want that at all.
As much as I really like Mac and I hate what's happened. So for me, I'm not quite sure if they brought, because I know we're actually on time, so I need to wrap it up. I think for me, Kaylee is probably one of my front runners anyway. Like you said, tight ends coach. But a couple of the guys that unfortunately we don't really have time to talk about now, but a couple of the guys I find interesting. I read up on I think it was Kubiak actually was interesting. He'd got plenty of experience. And there was the 49ers coach, tight end coach, Brian Fleury. Yeah. He sounds very interesting as well with regards to experience. And I think that's something that's going to be key. But yeah, I wouldn't be unhappy with Kaylee. But yeah, unfortunately, folks, we have now run out of time. So we can't argue about Mac.
Before you wrap it up, I'm gonna agree with you. I think there's a lot of good candidates that offer a lot of different perspectives, that they all come from different current roles. Some are tight end coaches, some are passing coordinators, some are wide receivers. Like there's a lot of different angles they've approached this with. I think that's good.
Yes.
I don't think the Mac Jones thing is going to be part of the looking forward. They're not going to exercise. It's already out there that they're not going to exercise his fifth year option.
Yeah, I know that bit. Yeah.
And so if McDaniels walked in the room, or any of them walked in the room and said, "I'm going to fix Mac," I think they'd say, "Right, thank you. Turn around. You're not getting the role." Mac is not part of the future of the New England Patriots. I possibly don't even think next season. I think he'll be shipped. I think that's what all of these articles are based at. They're based at saying, look, he's not. To the fans, this is why we don't want him, and to other teams, this is why actually he's really good. It wasn't all his fault. Like, you sure you don't want to give us a 6th round pick for him? I think that's all about shopping him. I don't think he's going to be part of it at all. There's a lot of good names in the building. What time? I hope they get on and name it. They're also going to need offensive line is a key one, and I know you've posted about that recently. That appointment is key. They have to get that right. I think I love Troy Brown. I think they need new wide receivers coach after last year as well.
I agree with that too.
You need to get that OC in soon so he can then be making his appointments that he wants at those positions. You wait too long. Excuse me. You wait too long. All the other teams are going to have made all their appointments, and you're going to be picking up the scraps. Oh, this is the guy we can get in for this role. That's why I want them to be at the forefront, getting the people they want in the room before they're just picking up whatever's left, as well as looking at free agency and everything else. But we got months for that, and really, or a month actually. It's no longer months anymore, is it? Our time. I want them to get on and do it, really.
Yeah, and that is our problem today. We have run out of time, folks. Blame him. So that was it for the Coaching Carousel, catching up with the coaches episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. As usual, do not forget to be subscribing to said YouTube channel. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, folks. So tune in next time. And as always, go Pats.
LFG.